Well, something you won't hear it because we're all live, but something you hear about 5 to 10 times in every Zoom meeting is you're on mute because people forget that they muted themselves, and you now can buy a T-shirt that says you're on mute.
Oh, that's great.
Mhm.
I think I would wear that T-shirt for sure.
Oh, I'd 100% wear it. All right, so we are, just so that you guys know, we are officially live.
Oh, that's great.
So if you see me looking in multiple places, it's because I monitor the comment section on my phone, and I have another computer over here that I work with as well.
You're doing video production, Jeffrey. Did you ever
Man, hey, it's all about fun, man. Like, you know, how can we, you know, how do we have some fun with this, man?
Did Sam send you the magazine from iPrice, and they like their newsletter, and they had on their front page when we did the Facebook Live with the they had a picture of the three of us doing the Facebook Live.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So yeah, so we just, again, so that you guys know, we are live, so that's good stuff. And people are starting to come on in.
Robert, do you have a fan club that's going to be joining us?
I'm sure I do. I'm sure my colleagues are already on right now.
That's great.
So I will say, as if you're part of, as you guys come into the room, I see that number going up, so that's amazing. If you are part of the Robert fan club, you know, just drop a hi in the comment section for Robert. Just say, hey, Robert, so we can fill up the comment thread with nothing but hey, Roberts. I'm sure he'd like to see that. And at some point, I hope we can do some hey, Robert swag items, so we can build the fan club up to be a little bit larger, and really start promoting you a little bit more. So let's say right now it's 6:04. Let's jump in right at 6:05 if that's cool.
Sounds good.
Cool. So hey, everybody watching right now, just give you a heads up. We're going to start right at 6:05 with our first question. Our Hearts with Hope chairman, Pallavi Gore, just popped in. Hey, Pallavi, how you doing?
Pallavi.
Reese Craig says hi, Robert.
All right,
So
Robert.
here we go.
I love it.
Here we go, man. So just again, so everybody knows, I'm going to say it again. If you're part of the Robert fan club, just drop hi, Robert, in the comment section and give him a thumbs up. So,
you know, we have to harass our guests just a little.
Exactly. I mean, you know, like it's amazing because we live in this time, man, and everything is so focused and so serious, man. We have to take time to give each other that space and that grace. We have to smile with each other. You know, we have to find some room in all that we are doing, man, to have a little bit of fun. So that's where we are.
Yeah, sorry, I had to turn my light on. I'm in a room with a lot of windows, and it's going to get darker. So
hopefully we don't keep you guys on that long that it's dark when we're done.
It gets dark a lot earlier these days. So
all right, we're in. Let's do it. Hey, welcome. So this is conversation number 2 to our 3-part series on the just kind of exploring the different aspects of domestic violence and what it looks like in different communities. And so today we're going to be talking to Robert Daniel, excuse me. He is the clinical supervisor at Northside Hospital. And so this is super important for us. We love our relationship with Northside. Northside's actually sponsored our gala, been the presenting sponsor for our gala ever since I've been here, and they've been giving to PADV as an organization since 2001. And so when we got this opportunity to pivot and say, hey, we're going to do this virtual gala, we said, how about we have a week's worth of conversations? And I was like, hey, if we're going to have a week's worth of conversations, then one of the people we have to bring on is we have to have a conversation around how the hospital supports survivors of domestic violence. Because in every community, there is always a hospital. And just like our police officers and our firefighters who are on the front lines of helping survivors when they're in their home, our folks who work at the hospitals are on the front lines of helping survivors when they enter the hospital. So we are blessed today to have Mr. Robert Daniel. Robert, just real quick, man, or take as much time as you need. Tell us who you are, what you do for Northside, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hello, everyone. My name's Robert. I am a clinical supervisor at the Atlanta campus of Northside. I've been working for Northside for a little over 2.5 years now. Started back in March of 2018. Great, awesome place to work. And here recently, at the beginning of COVID, I just kind of started this new realm of the supervisor role. So I've been doing this now for supervising since March, so about seven months or so. I've been a nurse in the ER for about 4 years now. Prior to being a nurse, I was a tech, so like a nursing assistant for a year as well in the ER. So I've been in the ER for about 5 years now. I love it. I wouldn't do anything else. Crazy times, as the conversation we were having before we went live. But we act as kind of like a big support system for patients that have kind of domestic violence complaints and things like that. But we'll get into that in a little bit, but been doing it for like 5 years now. So it's an awesome job. I love it.
Great.
Man, and real quick, Robert, before Nancy, I'm going to come to you next and I actually have you introduce yourself as well. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that from our organization, man, we just want to say thank you really for you and your team and your staff, man, standing in the gap right now. I know it's hard, and I know it's rough, and I know every day you guys go to work is a hard day. And so thank you so much for doing it every day, for enduring the hardship and having a smile on your face, because it's not just survivors you're supporting right now. It's COVID patients. It's everybody. It's the kids who are coming in with broken legs, and you guys have 2 masks and the goggles on, right? But you still have to smile and show love, man. So I sincerely appreciate you. And if you're watching today, again, hi Robert is awesome. But right now, I think we can transition from hi Robert to thank you, Robert, for standing in the gap for survivors of COVID patients. So if you're in the comment section, throw a thank you, Robert, in there as well. So hey, Nancy, everybody knows you, but I want to give you a chance to say who you are and what you do. Nancy, take it away.
Hey, I am Nancy Fryoff. I am CEO with Partnership Against Domestic Violence, and what I do is work with an amazing team of staff and board members and volunteers that do everything they can to end the crime of intimate partner violence and empower its survivors.
Awesome, man. So yes, Nancy is an awesome CEO. And she indulges me because I ask her to be a part of every one of these conversations. So, but let's jump right in, man. Robert, first question number 1. Are there different protocols right now for survivors when they're admitted to the ER? When they're admitted, are there different protocols for when they're admitted without their abuser and with their abuser?
Yeah, so right now it's a little bit easier. Like I said before we went live, the ER, we're not allowing visitors right now. So it's a little bit easier when someone comes in. We can kind of take that place. Me as a supervisor, we tell the family member it could be possible, abuser, that we're not allowing visitors right now. But pre-COVID, say you've got, husband, wife that come in, and husband leaves the room for say 5 minutes to go to the restroom, and wife, starts to kind of unravel the story of like what happened. So if that ever happened, then we would ask the husband to step out. And we usually try to have them wait in the waiting room and just tell them that the doctor's going to come in and do an assessment. We don't want to, make the scenario happen to where, husband or wife or whoever may react to that kind of comment asking them to leave. So COVID has made it a little bit easier. And our staff, of course, we get yearly education, and we get the education on how to identify and screen for domestic violence and kind of what to do if they ever suspect. So it's a little bit easier now with COVID. Like I said, with no visitors, we're easier to push that. But sometimes we run into those areas where we do have to ask the partner to step out, and we have to kind of do it kind of nonchalantly and say the doctor would like to speak to the patient privately. So. But our staff is well trained in when to recognize that.
That was actually going to be my next question is are you guys, or how long typically does it take for your antennas to start to go off that says, hey, the reason why this person's in the emergency room isn't because I ran into the doorknob or I fell down some stairs?
I didn't hear the first part. You kind of broke up. What was the first part of the question?
Oh no, I just wanted to say is how quickly can the staff identify that the reason the person is in the ER is it because they fell down the stairs or ran into a doorknob?
Gotcha. It kind of comes with experience in that a little bit. Obviously, like I was telling you, we've got a lot of new nurses fresh out of school. Some of them aren't going to be kind of as prone to recognize that. Some of them are. So it kind of just depends on their experience with this situation, I would kind of say. And then a lot of times you kind of have to dig in. It may take a couple of people asking the patient the same questions, because sometimes you'll get different answers. And then that's when you kind of build that concern. Something's not right here. And then of course, if you do have that partner in the room, if you notice that they're a little bit more reluctant to give answers while the partner's in the room, you kind of want to go back in when they're not in the room to try to ask them more questions, or again, ask that, that partner to step out and kind of see how they change their demeanor a little bit. So again, it kind of falls under experience a little bit, but most of the time, our nurses are pretty quick to realize and identify those behaviors.
Okay, Jeffrey, I have a question now.
No, go ahead, because I had a question for you. So you want to ask your question, or can I ask you mine?
Right. So, Robert, as you're talking, one thing I'm wondering is if you have someone that you feel fairly certain has been a victim of domestic violence, but they continue to deny it and won't talk with you about what's going on, how do you address that going forward with that patient?
So we're very close with our behavioral health staff that we have. We have a 24/7 on-call staff that's there in the department that helps us deal with our psychiatric patients. But they're of course well trained to deal with these kind of domestic violence situations as well. So if the nurse and doctor kind of have a concern regarding that issue with domestic violence, we don't try to badger them and try to get information out. We're not there to question them. We're always there for support. But if we do have that concern, we do kind of bring in our behavioral health assessor and kind of just let them talk to them. We warn them ahead of time, like, hey, we're a little concerned. We don't, she's not giving, he or she may not be giving information that, confirms, positive violence or anything like, or any kind of domestic violence like that, but we're just concerned. So we can always bring in that third party help that we have with our behavioral health team, and they're awesome at it. And sometimes they have those magic words, because that can just pull out all the information, and then, it kind of digs deeper. So if we need to, we kind of go to them. If the patient, is kind of reluctant with it, we kind of just keep an open ear. And if we need to turn to them, like I said, we have that partnership with them. So they're a big help for sure.
Nancy, one of the questions, as we're talking here, one of the things that jumped out at me really quickly was Robert's talking about the reluctance of survivors to open up and to share with the doctors and share with the nurses kind of what's going on. Why is it? Because they're in what we would deem as a safe place around people who are there 100% to support them. Where does that reluctance to open up to your nurses and doctors come from?
It can be for different reasons. It can be, again, we know that when someone is in a domestic violence relationship, they want the violence to end, not the relationship. So there can be the fear that if I tell about the violence, that somebody is going to make me leave the relationship, or I'm going to hear all this stuff about how I should leave the relationship, and I'm not ready to do that yet. It can be fear. Batterers are really good at making threats about what happens if that victim tells. And, Jeffrey, as I always like to say, domestic violence loves darkness and it loves silence. And it's easier to propagate when those things are in place. And so very likely that batterer said, if you ever tell anyone, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to, you're going to get it even worse. I'm going to take the kids. You're never going to see him again. You better keep your mouth shut. Excuse me, BITCH, because I've never talked to a battered woman who hadn't been referred in that terminology, because if you tell anyone, you think it's bad now, it's going to get even worse. And she's seen this person and experienced this person do terrible things. So there's absolutely no reason not to believe those threats. Oh my gosh, if I tell that nurse, if I tell that doctor, maybe it's going to get back to him that I told, and then things are going to get even worse for me.
Man, you guys have jumped out there, right? And you're really driving home the importance of this conversation. I do want to make sure I let the audience know that if you're watching today and at any point in time, if you feel like if there's somebody in your life that you really need, that needs our services, our services, just like the hospital, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, you can call our crisis line at 404-873-1766. And we put that in the comment section. So be sure, if you think that there's somebody in that kind of situation, you can call the crisis line and say, hey, what resources are available to me? But then you can also safely get that number to the person in need so that they can begin the process of getting that life-saving care. If you're enjoying where we are right now in the video, we do have some more conversation left. We had a lot of conversation left, actually. But hit the like button, obviously, share the video so that other people can engage and be part of this conversation that's so important. So we're talking to Robert from Northside Hospital. Again, appreciate Northside. Robert, you actually touched on it earlier, but so we'll skip that one. But what I want to know next is kind of, have you seen an increase in cases of domestic violence in kind of recently?
I wouldn't say just domestic violence. We have seen an increase in patients where they're experiencing any kind of behavioral health complaints from the kind of, from the range of, like, it could be a teenager acting out and mom and dad wants to get them in to come and see what's going on. We have seen some domestic violence related issues. And there has been recently, I will say, I've seen personally on night shift, like I told you earlier, I'm at work on night shift. So you see a little bit more patients that are coming in and they're complaining more about behavioral health issues. And some of those issues can increase in treating the patients related to domestic violence. But they are seeing an increase in behavioral health in general. It's not just domestic violence, but there is a lump sum of domestic violence patients that are also coming in a little bit more. And like I said, it's a little bit easier for us to kind of contain what we were speaking about earlier with our no visitor policy, with COVID here and everything.
This is really good. So Nancy, question for you is, how important are hospital ERs to survivors of domestic violence?
Right. I mean, it's critically important. And unfortunately, that's another way that abusers can be abusive to their victims, is when something's happened and they need medical care, to keep that medical care from them. So I think emergency rooms are critically important. I think it means that if that survivor can't access medical care when the incident happens, and maybe the abuser goes to work the next day, it takes a while to schedule an appointment and to find a primary care doctor. If you don't have one, well, I can get out to the ER. I can get assessed. I can make sure that this terrible ache in my arm is not a broken bone. And yeah, maybe someone's, if they ask me what's going on, this feels like a really safe place to be able to start talking about it. We trust our medical staff. We trust our doctors. We trust our nurses. We understand about patient confidentiality. So that may feel like a really safe place, and especially if I've been isolated and I can't tell my friends, I can't tell my family because I'm going to get in big trouble if I do that. But here are medical people, I can at least start talking to them about it. And I know that they have to protect my confidentiality and they can't tell anyone. So having that real competent, trustworthy, and medically really aware place to go to get both physical and mental treatment and support is critically important.
Hey, Robert, this just hit me, and it wasn't in the questions that I sent you, but I want to know what's the process if a survivor says, yes, Robert, I am a victim of domestic violence, and she wants to open up more. Is there a process that the hospital goes through to get other people involved?
Yeah, so our ER, we kind of have we do have a strict process with it. So say if a woman or even husband comes in and they say that, I've been a victim of domestic violence, we bring them in immediately. We kind of make their chart like a privacy type of access. So only the nurse, only the team that is actually caring for that individual will actually be able to see their name. So that way, if a partner calls the ER and they say, hey, I'm looking for Susan, is Susan there? And they our staff knows to look and see if they see that privacy marker that we're not supposed to give out any information. Even if they say, this is their husband or this is, her brother or whoever, because, in the past we've seen people that are actually the abuser. Well, they will call and kind of mask their identity as a different family member. So we do have that privacy kind of option for our patients. But once they get in, we kind of assess the situation. We assess their injuries, things of that nature. And we do let them know we have, 24/7, we have an officer on duty in our front desk of the ER. And usually we go and we let that officer know, and that officer will come and speak with the patient to see if they would actually like to pursue with pressing charges. Because if they do want to do that, then we have to get that whole jurisdiction of, where it occurred and things of that nature. And then from there, like I mentioned earlier, we do have that behavioral health relationship with our behavioral health staff. So if we do usually kind of put in a consult with them and they can come and speak with them because they have, numerous amounts of resources that they can give the patient. And we just, like I said earlier, we urge our, our patients and those victims that we are here to help. We're not here to pressure you into, leaving the person, because like Nancy said, a lot of these people, they just want the violence to stop. They don't necessarily want the relationship to stop. But we do urge them to, kind of seek help, especially if there's children involved, things of that nature. So, but if, a lot of patients, they come in and we exhaust all options, and then a lot of the victims, they don't want to pursue anything. So all we can do is just kind of be there and let them know that we're here to support them. And it's ultimately up to them on what actions they want to take further. But us as healthcare workers, we are obligated to, once they kind of voice it to us, we have to kind of exhaust all of our options to kind of hopefully, hope that patient will move forward with like law enforcement. We can't pressure them to do that, but, like I said, we do encourage them. But ultimately it's their choice. But we're just here as a huge support system, and whatever they need.
I love it.
Jeffrey, I wanted to say one other thing.
Go ahead.
I was thinking about when you ask why the ER services are so important. Those medical records are critically important. So let's say that survivor decides, no, I'm not ready to leave, and goes back, but a month later it happens again, and that's the breaking point for them. And I'm going to get a temporary protective order. I'm going to press charges. So having those medical records that they have been injured before, that they have had to seek medical attention before, that can really help make a case for them, both in getting that temporary protective order, if they decide they want to press charges, and even for filing for divorce, and they need to show that evidence that this person is dangerous, and so I really do need to get custody of the children. So that's another critically important piece that the ER departments provides to victims.
Nancy, I saw you when Robert was talking about respecting the wishes of the survivor. I saw you smiling and nodding your head. Why is that so important for survivors to have the hospital staff or have anybody really respect the wishes of what they're going through?
Well, it's important to remember that domestic violence is about power and control, and it's about the person who's using the violence and abuse working to get power and control over the person who's experiencing it. And so a really critical part of someone being able to move through that and move out of that and really reclaim themselves and reclaim their life is taking that power and control back. And when we as interveners say, we know what's best and we're going to tell you what's best and you have to do what we tell you to do, then we're taking that power and control away from that survivor. And it can be extremely difficult, because to see someone hurt and to know they're going to go back and get hurt again can be, it's very, very difficult. But if we tell someone what to do, and they maybe kind of do it because we told them, but it's not in their heart to do it, they're not going to keep up with it. I've heard it over and over and over again. It wasn't until I was ready and I knew I had to leave that I had the strength and the ability to do that. So it's so important to let that person be in control of that. The other thing is, we don't know their life. We don't know what their abuser has said or done. So they may know, look, for me to leave tonight, it's not going to work, because he's going to know I went to the hospital. He's going to know where to find me. He'll be waiting for me in the parking lot. But I know I need to leave. So I'm going to take the next month to make a plan, to put some money aside, to gather my important documents, to get set up with a friend where I can go and stay once I leave. And so I need to do it in my time and my way. Thank you for your help, but this is the way it's going to be safe for me.
Robert, excuse me, I'm sorry. Robert, Miss Cassandra in the comment section asked, do you see many pregnant women who are also victims of domestic violence?
Not as much, I would say. I haven't seen as many. I have seen a few, I will say. There are a few, and most of them it's kind of the early onset of their pregnancy. I do notice that a lot, is that if they are pregnant, they're early in their pregnancy. So I don't necessarily see a whole lot of pregnant women at Northside whenever it comes to it, but the ones that I have seen, which is a select few, they're normally early on in their pregnancy. So not as much.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. No, thank you. And guys, please keep the questions coming. I know Robert and Nancy are both here and open to answer your questions. Nancy, I do want to also throw that same question to you, because, you know, I mean, I've been in show, you know, whenever when pre-COVID, right? There have been times that I've seen pregnant women, you know, in shelter. You know, we had a baby get delivered in shelter, right? So do you, from your experience, being that you've been, you know, in the field for a while, do you see a lot of pregnant women that are coming to seek services from PADV specifically? Yes.
Right. It's not unusual for us to have women that are pregnant seeking our services coming into the shelter. And I know I've heard from many women that the violence may have started when they got pregnant, or may have gotten worse when they got pregnant. And it's about attention and time, and in some ways, again, that power and control being taken from the perpetrator of the violence. Because if you're pregnant, you're going to put time there, you're going to put attention there, and I don't have control over what your body does in growing a baby. And if I want to have control over everything about you, then that may make me more scared, that may make me more anxious, and that may make me escalate my violence.
Yeah, great point. Nancy, next question, again, I want to throw another one at you real quick. Is it common for us as an organization to see survivors come directly from the hospital?
Yes, it's not at all uncommon to see survivors come directly from the hospital. It's not unusual for us to see survivors come from the hospital with maybe a toothbrush and the bag of supplies that the hospital provided to them. So that's not unusual. I'm thinking of a woman who came to us and actually was pregnant and decided to go back to her abuser. And the abuse happened again, resulting in her having to go to the emergency room. And that time she did come directly from the emergency room back to the shelter. And that for her was the final straw. That's when she made the decision: I'm not going to allow this to happen to me anymore. And I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to protect this baby.
Awesome. So I honestly, this has been such a great conversation. I have one question left for each one of you guys. And Robert, we're going to let you have your night back, because I know you said you worked nights, you worked last night, you're off today, but you got to go back tomorrow, man. And so I definitely want to be respectful of your time. So this really is a really broad question, but how do we as a community bridge the gap between the ER community and organizations like PADV?
I think, the gap, definitely we need to bridge the gap. I think that there's such a broad pool of resources that we have in the ER. And there's a lot of resources that some of my staff, they don't know that they have. But that's why we have that relationship with our behavioral health team, because they have loads of resources and loads of places like shelters that we can give resources to go. Sometimes we'll even have, an officer take these patients to these shelters if needed. But we always urge, especially victims, to come in and to have, at least a family member or a friend that they trust, ultimately to kind of help, bring them in and, ask to help them do whatever it is they need, whether it be maybe go from the ER to these shelters or go to their home. But we provide so many referrals with our behavioral health people with patients who have been a victim of domestic violence. And so we just provide all that information for, like I said, with shelters and community resources. And there's a whole plethora of things that are available in the ER. So.
Honestly, brother, honestly, man, it sounds like Northside's doing it right. Just everything that you guys have described, from keeping things secret for survivors to getting the officer involved when you need to really respecting the wishes of the survivor, man. It really sounds like Northside is doing this thing the right way. And so we appreciate all that you guys are doing. Nancy, I'm going to throw, unless in the meantime, unless there's a question that comes from the audience, I'm going to throw this last question to you. And what do you wish we could be doing to support survivors leaving the AR that we're not doing?
I wish that there was a way, and it's always hard to do this and preserve safety and confidentiality. I wish that there was a way that we were able to provide follow-up to survivors that have been in the ER and have either chosen to go back home, or even if they haven't, if they haven't come to us, but they've gone to a friend or they've gone to a family member. I wish there was a way that we could reach out to them and say, hey, we're here. These are the services that we can provide. This is how to get in touch with us. So please, we're here. We're not going to bother you all the time or harass you, but we are here and we are available if you need our help. And I just wanted to say, Jeffrey, in response to your previous question about ways for PADV and emergency rooms to work together, I think we're both critical pieces of providing care and support. We can't do what the emergency room does. You all are our heroes. I can't imagine the injuries and what you have to deal with every day. And we're so important in being able to provide that emergency housing and that housing and apartments in the community and the counseling and legal advocacy and all those pieces of it. So I think it's so important, and it sounds like we really do. I think it's so important for each piece to know what the other piece is doing. Because as I listen to Robert speak, I feel like, gosh, I'm going to feel so much more confident talking to survivors about seeking medical help if they need it, and that the people there will understand and they will protect your confidentiality and they'll be supportive of you, and that I can be so much more an advocate for what emergency rooms can provide. And I think the more that we talk to medical personnel about what we provide and working in partnership with them, the stronger that network of care is going to be for survivors.
100%, Nancy. Like that's, you and I were kind of in the same mental space, man. And when I hear that, and that's why I'm so passionate about people really getting this message and sharing it with so many other people, because I think what they will hear from Robert is that Northside is taking every precaution to protect survivors, right? And so if I'm a survivor, I know now that I have an advocate in the entire Northside network, right? It doesn't matter if I go to Northside Atlanta or Northside Gwinnett or Northside Cumming, it doesn't matter, right? I have the ability to know without a shadow of a doubt that when I go as a survivor, I'm going to be protected and I'm going to be cared for. And so, Robert, thank you so much, man. I sincerely appreciate your hard work and your every day of the week, man. You're getting after it. You're saving people every day. So I appreciate you guys so much for
Thank you. We appreciate you guys. The load of of the support that we've been getting from our community, not just being COVID, but they come in and we've just been getting so much support from the community. So we appreciate it as well as healthcare workers. We know we're not the only lives that have changed. Everyone's lives have changed, but we do appreciate the everyday support that we've received.
That's awesome. Hey, so Robert actually said you work tomorrow night at the Atlanta campus. So if anybody wants to send dinner to ER staff, they can they send dinner to you? Get this cater the meal for the ER staff.
We've had catered meals from people out in the communities. They contact the ER and speak with our manager, and they kind of set that all up. So, you know, we have gotten it, and we appreciate it for sure, because a lot of times in the ER, we don't have time to, you know, sit down and lunch, get a full-time lunch. So we like to come in and snack and then keep it moving. So we appreciate it for sure.
Yeah. Hey, support. Hey, and so some of this is, yes, it's geared towards, you know, our gala, Hearts with Hope, is on Saturday. And we hope that everybody that's watching today will go register www.heartswithhope.org and support PADV, right? Because the critical work that we're doing in the community, without us, I just don't know where survivors can go to get the support that they need in the Metro Atlanta area. So that's what we're here for today, because we want to, yes, one, bring this conversation forward, because Northside is doing some great work. We also want you to support the organization by donating to the organization at padv.org and participating in the gala, heartswithhope.org, heartswithhopegala.org. But we also want you to support our medical professionals, right? And so, yes, if you feel so inclined to contact Northside's management and say, hey, I want to cater a meal for these guys, yes, do it. We'd love for you to do that. If you would like to contact us or be a part of anything we're doing, you can follow us on social media at PADV Atlanta across all of our platforms. I do encourage you to visit our website, padv.org. Everything that you need as far as wanting to participate in the gala, you can do that right here on our website. If you need our crisis line information, that number, again, is here on our website. And then there are a host of other resources that for survivors and for those who just want to support survivors. So you can, all of that information is right here on the website, on our homepage. And so today, I just encourage you, man, to find a spot where you feel like you can fit into this mission, whether it's supporting us at Hearts with Hope, donating to the cause, buying an auction item at the gala, whatever, wherever you feel like you can fit in this mission, I encourage you to do so. So Nancy, Robert, thank you so much for being part of today's conversation. I encourage everybody to be right back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. We're going to have an engaging conversation about finding hope after domestic violence. And we're going to have my good friend, Ms. Charmaine Helton, is going to be a part of that conversation. And our Vice President of Shelter and Supportive Housing, Ms. Katha Blackwell, will also be a part of that conversation. And it's about finding hope after domestic violence. And it's such an important topic for us to talk about. So thank you all for joining us today. And we'd love to see you tomorrow. And we'd love to see you again on Saturday. Y'all have an amazing day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.